Welcome. This is the Town of Sherborn Select Board meeting, Thursday, March 12th, 2026. It is 6:34 p.m. And I am calling the meeting to order. If I could start by having the Assistant Town Administrator read the executive session agenda.
Good evening. So the executive session starts at 6:30, and we're meeting with Defense Counsel and Town Council in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A and 3, and Suffolk Construction versus DPF, 449 Mass, 444 parentheses 2007, to discuss Richard Thompson versus Town of Sherborn et al. Middlesex Superior Court, Civil Action 2181, CV 01004. And pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, specifically the Public Records Law, General Law, Chapter 4, Section 7, parentheses 26, to discuss privileged communication from counsel regarding litigation.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the executive session agenda?
I move approval as read by the Assistant Town Administrator.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And as the chair, I declare that executive session is necessary for the purpose of discussing litigation, and I move that we enter into executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll take a roll call vote. Marion?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Abstain.
And I'm an aye. So we are now in executive session. Can you stop the recording? All right, welcome. This is the open session of the Select Board meeting of Thursday, March 12th, 2026. Can I have the Assistant Town Administrator the open session agenda?
Good evening. After I read the agenda, the board will amend or approve the agenda. I've had no request for public comments tonight. Items can be taken out of order, and topics not anticipated 40 hours in advance may be added. Item number 1 is the consideration of the Town of Sherborn environmentally preferred procurement policy, formerly the buy recycled policy. Item number 2 is the review of board and committee vacancies for consideration appointment on June 15th, 2026. Item number 3 is the consideration of a draft council access policy. Item number 4 is the review and discussion of the 2026 annual town meeting warrant articles. Item number 5 is the consideration of ballot questions for the 2026 town election. Item number 6 is the draft FY27 operating and capital budget. Item number 7 is the Dover-Sherborn Regional FY27 roof restoration project and related IMA. Don Vittori will be here for that. Item number 8 is the consent agenda, which is the TA payroll warrant and draft minutes of February 12th. We'll then have select board reports and TA reports.
All right, thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Hearing none, I move approval of the agenda as read by the Assistant Town Administrator.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And 1, consideration of Town of Sherborn environmentally preferred procurement policy. See, Amelia is here.
So I have it in front of them.
Yeah.
So this is really just here for continued eligibility for grant funding. Basically back in 1998, we, along with most other Massachusetts municipalities, adopted some sort of buy recycled policy as required by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. That policy is still, the bones of it are still in the document that's in front of you today. Nothing's been reduced really. There's just been more restrictions that have added in the 30 years since that came out, and as the recycling market has changed. Nowadays, in order to qualify for FY27 grant funds from the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, including recycling dividends funds, which we receive about $6,000 from a year, we are required to update our buy recycled policy to an environmentally preferred bulk environmentally preferable procurement policy, or EPP for short.
Mhm.
That policy is a draft, but because it was signed by the select board, or specifically the chair of the select board back in 1998, precedent would follow that select board, once approving it, would sign it to have it, replace that policy. And the policy only is full of shoulds, not shalls. So there's no mechanism for holding us to account for this. It's just sort of making sure that our procurement is ideally aligned to these values. And similar to the buy recycled policy, all that's really done to enforce it is the chief procurement officer, in this case our town administrator, would send out a memo every year saying, here's our guidelines for procurement. The only thing that's really been added is there's a call out for specifically compostable materials being used. That wasn't in the 1998 version. And I believe the recycled content of the office supplies like paper has increased a little bit. But I worked on this with the recycling committee, so this is mostly coming from their recommendation. And I also talked to Dover to see if this is something that would overlap at all with the schools. And they were like, we don't know. So there is probably some wiggle room there, but it's not over committing us to anything. So
Are there other examples of types of grants that are out there that we are eligible for because of this? Really only tangentially related. I'm just like, oh, we need it for eligibility for grants. I'm like, oh, what kind of grants?
So RDP is just like a guaranteed funding source every year because of the small recycling program improvements that we run. We gain a certain number of points according to our population and environmental justice status. Currently, we gain 420 points per year, and if we get that over 10 points a year, we get 600 points a year. So that's kind of our goal now that I'm on board. The SMRP grants as a whole can be up to several $1,000s. Holliston was just awarded a $6,000 grant to establish a swap shop like we have at our transfer station currently. You can get up to $12,000 for improvements to our recycling facility, such as a cardboard compactor, which Holliston also wants to go after. And so, these things they're not massive. They're not going to make big infrastructural changes, but they're a way to help out, trying to implement more complex recycling.
Great.
Yeah, it sounds like a good thing to have. And thank you for doing that. So well presented.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, move
Yeah.
approval. All in favor?
Would you terribly mind signing it right now?
Can't do it. Sorry.
Thanks, Amelia. Very helpful
I think
material.
this recycling
and all the
thing
rest.
benefit though was doing more things electronically, so we're not actually buying recycled.
That would be great.
We're not
Right,
buying.
not using materials, right?
Yeah, do you know, Amelia, when's the last time we got a grant to improve our recycling center?
I don't know. It didn't
Sean would know.
last year, but Sean.
Oh, would-
Yeah, sure, we know.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
a while, so
Yeah.
that's something to bear in mind.
Now that I'm here, I hope to help increase our capacity to apply for things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hold on to that? I'll get up on Monday.
Okay.
thank you, Amelia.
Thanks, Amelia.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 2, review of board and committee vacancies for consideration of appointment on June 15, 2026.
So this is the Marion and Diane version we met. And we went over it and needed to make it more understandable for the people that are looking at it. So we actually got rid of one column. And so you'll see the name of the board or committee or commission, the terms for their appointments, the committee size, and under current vacancies, that's the actual vacancy that exists. And then you'll see open for appointment or reappointment, and those are the ones that usually are due for reappointment. So you kind of need to glance at this, because this almost is what determines it. Like if you go to the agricultural commission, just as an example, there is one full voting member vacancy that's vacant, and one person that's due up for reappointment.
I see.
So that's why you have.
I thought that one and
Oh.
one were the same
Yeah,
person.
no, that's why you have the one. and the one.
You know
Kind
about it.
of have to add them together.
So effectively, you would say, So committee size, 5 voting members.
Right.
But currently there are only 4 members of the Agriculture Commission.
Exactly,
And of those 4, one of them is up for reappointment.
exactly.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Okay, great.
And our challenge was to make it clear to someone who's interested in doing something, that is the situation.
Got it.
And, if this can be revised, right? We can
Absolutely.
change the heading so that it's very clear.
Why does the ZBA have 20 openings?
Well, that you haven't.
I caught that.
My typo, that was my typo.
Courtney needs help. We know Courtney needs help.
Actually, that number should have been 0.
It's the,
Oh, okay.
on the
I
new.
was like, I've never seen 20 people at a ZBA
Yes.
hearing. before.
And it's 2 people that are up for reappointment.
They're up for reappointment.
Correct.
There's actually, you can tell though, there's 4 I think we need to discuss though. The cable TV, Mike Klein, you have 7
I have-
members, but 5 vacancies. The elder housing, I'm very worried about. You have 9 members, but 5 vacancies, and we had a lot of people that were like Kitty and Sturgis and other people that were on that committee for probably 30 years or whatever it was. Energy and sustainability, Michael Lesser and others. You have 4 out of 9, and then the other one is Historic District Commission, which has 5 vacancies out of 7. So I think those 4, before we address some of the onesie-twosie vacancies, I think we need to look at committees that are really maybe below critical mass. And I think the Historic District Commission, I was always confused because then you have the Historic Commission, which is for the whole town, and the district is just for the district.
Right.
So that one I'm a little less concerned about. I'm very worried most about elder housing.
Well, there is reason to be
Well-
worried about the Historic District Commission because it does have some regulatory powers
Yes,
about reviewing construction in that district and
Yeah,
making
yeah.
sure that it's.
So if I can.
Peggy Novak was chair of it, wasn't she, for a while? I think Peggy Novak, and they moved out of town, sort of, semi-moved out of
So if
town.
I can talk about elder housing, I actually have an application sitting on my desk right now that somebody wants to be appointed, and I have another person that has reached out to me, so I actually have 2 viable candidates that I could bring forward once I'm able to host this for 30 days. So that would bring that membership back up to, there'd be 3 vacancies.
But isn't there a problem? The chair transition, that you found a woman that's quite good at replacement of chair, but she doesn't want to continue, I think. Is that right? I can't think of her name
Are you
right.
talking about for the elder housing?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Pam Dowse is the chair of that committee.
Oh, she's chair? Okay.
Yes, she's the chair.
Is there a reason that that's a large committee? The size is large. Is there a reason that that's one of the largest committees,
I
9
don't know.
members?
When the charge was put together, why?
It
They
encompassed residents.
5 to 9.
Partly, it wasn't just people that were like,
Representation.
people at Woodhaven and were members, like I think Margot
Well,
used
they
to
were
be on
actually
there.
given a range,
Sturgis.
anywhere from 5 to as many as 9.
Yeah.
Is there a requirement that a certain number of them be residents at Woodhaven?
None of these are residents. of Woodhaven.
Okay, so there isn't a requirement.
So it could, maybe the committee size could be 5 to 9.
We could put
But,
5 to 9.
well, the maximum size is 9, so,
Correct.
It's not a lot of things, but we just did all that water work, Sean described to us the new wells, the new water system we put in at Leland Farms and Woodhaven, but they have challenges there.
yeah.
So that's one that affects a lot of residents, and these are people who show up at meetings and vote because that's what some of those dedicated people do over there at Woodhaven. And it's not obviously as elders, not at Woodhaven, elsewhere in town, but it's a pretty important committee. I think Dave Curtis was treasurer. I think he passed away recently.
We really have all the members you see for elder housing, they're fairly new. And I have to say that they're a good committee. They
So-
work well with the residents.
Have you found that in the past, particular strategies have worked well or not worked at all in trying to drum up volunteers?
I've tried, I keep putting individual press releases in the paper, like I just added another one last week for Affordable Housing Trust? No, for the Disability Advisory Committee. I spoke with Nicole Weimer, and I asked her, I said, how about if I put in a, a press release that's, it's good size? And we decided to do that. Jeannie's going to put the application on the back of the advisory report that's going to go to everybody's
Right.
house. We discussed that again today. So doing that, I did reach out to the schools, and they don't do those inserts anymore. So I kind of get.
Yeah.
And I'm always talking to people.
Yeah.
That's the best thing, I think, is to get out there and talk and tell people. Like I actually mentioned it today, yesterday at the department head meeting. When we're all together, I said, if you have anybody that's looking, that inquires about volunteering in town, please send them to me. And I can go over a whole list of vacancies we have and give them charges to look at.
When you get new applicants, people who aren't, already doing things, do you ask them like, oh, how did you find out about this? Like, what got you interested in this?
I
Just to
think,
find out.
I think it's kind of word of mouth that's getting out there. People are starting to want to people for us.
Yeah.
Because they know that we really do need
Yeah.
volunteers. And it's hard to get.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
But this is on our webpage, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
on cable, do we have it on cable?
I will have, but I didn't put that on cable yet because I wanted to get this select board to say it looked okay and they were happy with it.
On the web
And I could get
page,
Rick Terrara to put it on.
is there a link to it from the homepage, the front page, or do you have to click through a few
You
things?
just got to go to departments and boards and committees and what vacancies are there.
put it
But I can
inside
put it right on the front page.
Yeah, every once in a while you
Put
should
a
bump
link.
it to the top of town.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think one thing that's unique about it is like if someone's into energy or into recycling, they want to participate. They're gonna say, I have an interest. There's no one that knows that there's an elder housing committee or that there's some of these committees, you probably won't get people volunteering because it's not intuitive that that function even exists or that it's not run by the town as opposed to a committee.
Or somebody on the committee kind of recruiting.
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly.
That's what we're doing. We're
sort
doing
of a-
one-on-one recruiting.
So it's that's why I focus on the ones with the most vacancies and maybe slightly below critical mass, because I think we might have to exert more influence there than just ask for volunteers,
one thing is that for the North Sherborn Water Sewer District, we're up to 5 now, so there's no current vacancy.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. That's,
Oh, that's right. I didn't notice that.
thank you. That probably just made people.
Yeah, Matt he just got sworn in
Okay.
2 days ago.
And these are only the positions that are appointed by the select board. We also have positions that are elected. So, if you look at the total numbers of volunteers, if all these committees were filled, that the town uses to run itself, it's pretty impressive. It's a lot of
great.
people.
Yeah, yes. Impressive and depressive, just because you got to keep finding that many people all the time. But yeah,
Exactly. It's a lot of work.
Quorum for town meeting.
yeah,
The pay is good.
the pay is good
Maybe we should double it.
and the hours suck. As we can test.
Approval. I will
The Bruins
post
game right now.
a couple of changes.
Yeah.
Get it posted in the newspaper, re-put it on the website, have Judy put a link on the front page.
Do you want a motion to approve this?
No. As long as you're happy,
You're
with it,
okay.
that's all I need.
FYI.
Yeah, I'm happy. It's good. Thanks.
Oh, you also have a copy of the letter that I sent out
Mhm.
and the fillable application. Yeah. So. Thank you.
All right, next we have consideration of draft town council access policy.
So the draft was circulated previously, but it's in your packet. It's with an item. Asked US that I done the draft policy. So I have. I looked at various other towns and used samples from other communities to strap together. Diane did also find a couple historic documents that
I know that.
were in files.
That's the funny part.
in the packet as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a policy.
For access and another memo from a prior town administrator. So just put that in the packet for reference. But the policy, I also circulated it and got Paul's opinion as well, and he had some great input. So what you see in your packet is sort of a compilation of all of that for your discussion and approval this evening.
So just sort of as a general comment, we're spending too much money on legal, in my opinion. And from my experience in other communities, we can get good legal service for less than what we're spending. And one of the reasons why I think we're spending more than we should is because we haven't had a policy. It's been sort of open season on council. And when you have a policy, it has the effect of having people think a little bit before they incur the expenditure. And it's that 30-second pause of, do I really want to have my taxes go to answering a question that is probably just common sense often, or sometimes it's just, it's a political, a policy decision. You know, should I open my office at 9 o'clock? Well, let's ask town council what time I'm supposed to open my office. And then you get a bill for, $1,000 while the town council looks at, is there any bylaw that says you have to open at 9 o'clock and all this kind of stuff. And then you decide to open at 9 o'clock. A lot of that is just policy. Just decide when you want to open. If you want to open at 8, open at 8.
Paul, I'm in agreement but complete disagreement with you, which is I don't think any of our costs are minor issues. If you look at a couple things, one is we're paying a lot of money for Tom Mullen, a town council, to set up the North Sherborn Water District. So one reason our costs are higher is we've been working for 3 years with an attorney, pretty many hours to set up the North Sherborn Water District, which is huge benefit because we're going to get potential tax revenue from 168 new units. So the problem I have with why I don't agree with what you said is I view the percentage of our costs that come from those one-offs as being negligible. We have union contracts, we're being sued by, we have Maya Insurance, we're being sued by the police chief. We have major union contracts that vary in duration, and we've been working on the North Sherborn Water District. So while I think we need a policy, I don't think our legal costs are out of control. I think we need to look at what are ones that we can control. We know that we're going to, have the town administrator contract, a police chief contract, and we're going to have union or legal representation for those major tasks that happen at known intervals. And then we can see how many are the one-offs that you're describing, but I believe they're negligible. We can validate that. I think we need to be aware that our costs actually aren't that high. We're doing some major things like the water district and having just redone a number of contracts. So I'm not in agreement that legal costs are an issue. I know the advisory doesn't agree with me, but I'm going on record what I think.
So let me agree in part with what you just said, that when I looked at the financial data from Jeremy dealing with past years, I'm very much mindful that the town went through some pretty big lawsuits. We had the library issues, needed counsel, and so on and so on. But that being said, there should be a huge drop-off at some point. One of the dividends of having the library behind us should be a very perceptual drop.
Except for those were covered in the library budget, not under the town legal budget.
So I know I deliver services to communities at a much less cost than I'm paying as a taxpayer here. Let me put it that way.
I guess whether we're spending a lot or not spending a lot, I don't know the answers to that question. I found with one thing that I had a question about, I found the policy pretty sensible.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I just don't
that
think
people
it's-
ought to, that, if
It's
people
not.
want that it shouldn't be kind of, 20 people who can feel like they can call town council, but it should go through,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Jeremy, and that the
I'm
policy.
just saying that that's
Yeah.
not a contributor to legal costs, in my view. The major project that we're working
Yeah.
on is what's driving. I just want it to be a misperception that this is all of a sudden gonna reduce legal costs. It's not, because these one-off instances where someone needs a quick opinion are not driving our legal costs.
But still, we need to have a policy for
Yeah, I'm
that.
not disagreeing with that.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, I agree with Dan. I think this policy is really quite good. It certainly covers everything. In fact, it covers everything, some things a couple of times. So I think it could be maybe streamlined a little bit, but and made, completely consistent there, but it's basic wordsmithing.
I thought, it was very sensible. The one scenario that occurred to me because of a prior experience from my time on advisory, and during the time I was advisory chair, there was one occasion when there was an issue with the committee and what was happening in the committee where I wanted some advice from town council, and it would have been, I just couldn't have gotten a vote from the committee to do that. I would have been very happy to go to town administrator and say, here's the issue. Is it okay for me to do this? But I guess that was the one thing that I saw where I wondered what the best way to handle that would be, and whether that was just a unique situation that isn't likely to come up again, or if it might, because it was, a complicated dynamic of the committee, and I needed some legal guidance with what it was okay for me to do in managing the committee.
Well, I feel like this policy also essentially gives the town administrator the discretion to approach town council whenever he sees fit as well. So you could just bring the issue to
Okay.
the town administrator, who could then decide, oh, yes, I think bypassing the requirement to get your entire committee to vote on it. I think
If
that's
that's everybody's understanding, I'm fine with it then. That would have, which I did in any case. I
yeah.
contacted the town administrator and said, here's the issue. Is it okay if I contact town council? So
Yeah.
if that's
The way that I see this is
that works fine.
the way that I generally see things is that if the town administrator thinks that an issue requires town council input, town administrator does not need to come through the select board, have us do a vote in a
Right.
public meeting,
Right.
and fill out a form and give
no.
it back to him and say, here's the thing that you requested because it was legitimate. I think town administrator has free reign to utilize town council
That's-
whenever he sees.
Then I'm
However, Dan's point, I think, is worth considering, because under E here, request for opinion or use of town council service by any appointed or elected town board, committee, or commission shall be directed to the town administrator. Any requests shall be by majority vote of the board, committee, or commission members.
But-
And you're saying there may be situations in which you're not going to have a majority.
But it sounded like the workaround is if I went to the town administrator, which I did in that case, and said, here's the issue, I need some legal guidance.
Yeah.
Jeremy could essentially, on my behalf, send an email, say, there's an issue we need some input on, you're going to hear from Dan Sickle on this. And that for many things, yes, you'd want to vote of the committee if it was kind of one set of issues. And if it was a different set of issues, there's another path through the town administrator to
Yeah, I
get
think
the
that's
advice.
that's correct. In fact, my comment is not quite correct, because E is about requested services by an appointed or elected board. It's the board requesting the services, and an individual requesting the services could go still.
Right. And Jeremy could have said to me, come on, I think you can figure this out. You don't need to go to town council. So
Figure it out.
yeah.
I think that's also part of that is
Yeah,
utilize other
So
resources.
that answers the one thing that had caught my eye.
The other thing that caught my eye was under C, the first sentences: members of the select board and the town administrator are authorized to contact town council, blah, blah, blah. That implies that any of us can contact him directly, but at the end of that paragraph, I think correctly, it says, use of town council services by a member of the select board should follow the same process as all appointed boards, committees, commissions. So, I think even, for us, we could individually look for a legal opinion, but we would have to still go through you. Right?
I think that's the intent, is to help you,
Yeah.
track the services and keep,
Yeah,
all the opinions categorized.
yeah. I think in my opinion, it's sort of like, if it is an issue that is facing the select board, that the select board as a whole needs to decide upon or deliberate on, then that's something that the entire select board should vote and say, we need to get a town council opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah. If it was something like, Jeff brought something to my potluck that I didn't like and I had a problem with, I don't think
I probably didn't like
an,
it either.
an internal disagreement on the select board. I don't think that even though that says members of the select board are authorized to contact town council,
Yeah,
I think we would probably want to make it clear to town council that he probably should check with Jeremy before answering the question.
And I know what the spirit of it is. I just want to make sure that it's not,
sometimes the issue can't be a problem with the board itself
Yeah.
too. So that's why his example is important, because
Yeah.
it may be that you needed, it doesn't even have to be a legal opinion, but independent opinion, and not the board approving to request town council,
To
what I mean?
decide whether your dish was good or not good.
Yeah, the conflict, even if it's a minority person, maybe making a claim about discrimination on a board or something,
right.
it shouldn't necessarily be the board approving it. It should be the town administrator judging the situation that's brought.
Except in a situation, and looking for the loophole always, if, say, we have to consult town council about Jeremy, say his contract is coming up, and we have to renegotiate a contract, and we want to be able to consult town council directly for that, right?
Yeah, that's,
I mean, you could on Marion's concern in that last sentence and see, it starts out saying for tracking purposes, one could tweak the word. So instead of she'll follow the same process, something like she'll, complete the same form, fill out the same form, so that there's a record of, whatever.
So let me just give you some background on this, if I could. What I see frequently is one select board member will ask me as town council to write a complaint against another select board member.
well, that's a good idea. I like that idea.
Ethics
Careful what you
complaints
bring to my potluck,
or open meeting law complaints,
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And the point is, as a town council, I don't want to be weaponized
Yes.
for one person to be
Yeah.
using my skills to
Yeah.
kill someone else.
Yeah.
And it gets worse when I had one case where a board member said, would you do this ethics complaint against this other guy? And while I was mulling that, the other guy called me and said, would you file this open meeting law complaint against the first guy? And so I'm supposed to do these perfect complaints that nail each other, and they want to cause harm to each other. And why should the taxpayers of the community pay for that, number one?
Understood.
And number two, that perpetuates and deepens division. It doesn't bring people together. Filing those complaints become the source of even more grievances and then more requests. Would you do a public records request because he served this ethics complaint against me? And it goes on and on and on. It can get very expensive.
So under this policy, those two members of the same board are at each other's throats. Each would go to the town administrator, to Jeremy,
Yes.
and Jeremy would say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not taking this to town council.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically the takeaway is that if any of us wants to use town council, we should basically still go through Jeremy.
Mhm.
And if it's something that really it's like, oh yeah, the whole board needs to decide about this, then it'll just come up at the next meeting. Whereas if it's something that should be handled directly, then Jeremy can just simply decide to handle it directly, to me, the only like sort of exception, again, I think I said last time that there's only been one time during my year as chair where this has happened, where an issue came up. It was somewhat time sensitive. I believe Jeremy was on vacation. He was, on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Oh,
And so I just went directly to town council with that, which I feel like to some degree, the chair of the select board probably should have the latitude to be able to do that given a particular situation.
I
But
think it's here in the first sentence, but I think the idea would be that after you've done that, send him a memo saying, I've done this. So when the bill comes in and they see a zillion hours for Stephen's inquiry,
yeah,
we know
Yeah.
where it came from.
yeah, Diane asked me about it when the bill came in. It was like, I got this invoice from town council. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That was me, sorry.
In any case, I find this policy and this form way better than the old policy and the old form.
Yeah.
So I should approve it.
All right.
so we're gonna move approval and I'll second it.
I move that we approve the rewritten policy for access to town council, including the application form.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, thank you.
so, Stephen, I'm wondering, I know we approved the agenda since Dawn and
Oh, yeah.
the team were here. Is it
Yeah.
possible we could just go
Yeah,
right
I
to
was-
7?
I was already gonna do that.
All right, sorry.
So we're gonna move the schools down to the bottom after TA. All right, so
Town council for the opinion.
yeah, we're gonna, all right, skip ahead now because schools are here. So we're gonna go down to agenda item number 7, Dover Sherborn Regional FY27 roof restoration project and related IMA. And we've got Dawn Fitzroy here.
Yes, thank you. And I have Andy Johnson, the chair of the regional school committee, here with me this evening. We just came from the regional school committee meeting that just is freshly hot off the press approved the project costs in the IMA. So Diane, I'll leave these with you. So we're here tonight to bring the final number to you. I know that the goal is to always bring forward capital projects once we have a bid. So we do have a bid, and just to refresh your memory, the project that we're looking to do this summer is the roof restoration of the high school main building and the high school gym. This is the same process that we used for the middle school and Linquist 3 years ago. It's the fluid applied membrane. So it is not ripping off the existing asphalt roof, but building a system on top of that. It's a very green approach because we're not having to discard of the old. And I will say now, having lived with the middle school and the Linquist, and we had leaks in both buildings. It has been a really good system for us. Now I know it's only 3 years, but it is a clean, neat, and it sealed up all the issues that we had. We had major issues with the middle school gym. We had one wing of the middle school that definitely had continuous leaks, and it's nice not to have to worry about that. Unfortunately, this year we spent we spent money on the high school roof, which is why we brought this for as an emergency, high need versus something that we could push off to another year. We were close to canceling basketball games, so we did have to invest in some repairs on the middle school gym. I've called off any more repairs though for this year, knowing that we are close to actually getting it repaired. So that is the project. The difference in this one is that we are also replacing the skylights in the library. The skylights have some cracked domes, and while we're up there doing that, that was built into this project. So we went out to bid. Bids were open on Friday. They range from the lowest bid, which is what we're bringing forward to you tonight, all the way up to 2.4 million. The lowest bid was evaluated by our project administration team, checked references. They do have experience with using the product. I checked with the manufacturer of the product that we use because as their representative actually works with us as a co-partner, which is really great. He has worked with this company before and knows that we can get the job done correctly. So we benefited from, I think, a very aggressive bidding market in this type of work. the same day that we had our site visit, just for comparisons. I think it was Bedford was doing 5 of their schools. And so there was concern that there might not be contractors coming to our site visit. We had 10 contractors come to our site visit. So we were feeling really good about our potential. And with the competitive nature of this, we're very happy that instead of $2 million, which I thought might be closer to 1.7, the bid was posted at 1.58. So it still came below what they had anticipated. So added on to that lowest bid is just the project administration fee of the $13,500. So you have the total number there. We've updated the capital assessments for both towns, and so they can see Sherborn's number in the memo that I prepared. It's 4628. So your share of this project is $672,551.
Great. And well, for your information, the capital budget committee did vote. Correct.
Okay. I probably ask this every time you guys are messing around with roofs, but did you look into the potential for adding solar panels this time around?
We deem the region not to be a candidate for solar. So no, with the amount of with the new 7 very large RTUs onto that rooftop, everything is based on the buildings at the region to accommodate solar. The one area that would potentially look at solar is probably the parking lot canopies.
Is that something that you are either actively looking into or plan on looking into in the next couple of years?
At that, I think it's just a capacity of time,
Yeah.
and resources to.
Next question would be, do you know what the estimated life of this roof is?
It's warranted for 20 years and its estimated life of probably 25 or more. So it's a little bit shorter life than a regular roof, but if we did a full roof replacement, it'd be twice the cost of this.
How old is the current roof?
21, 22 years.
Okay.
So it's young, actually like 23 years. It's young for roof replacement, but if you recall, we've had issues with the construction on that campus with both roofs. So they both had lives less than what you would expect based on the install.
So,
And
and
the type that they were using back in the time those buildings were constructed.
is this going to get done this summer?
It is.
Well,
So a number of my communities have been getting grants from the state, MSBA, and they're all very happy with that.
Mhm.
And the taxpayers are very happy with that. And I understand it's a longer process and you're going to do with notice of intent and all this kind of stuff. But I would encourage you for repairs like the roof repair
Mhm.
to draw upon that agency, because that's funded by the Massachusetts sales tax and makes a nice contribution, reduces everybody's costs and so on and so forth.
Right, so that's the accelerated repair plan that we are aware of. We would not qualify at this point because of the age of what we're trying to replace. We don't qualify yet. Apply for that funding.
Because it's too young.
But we
I'm talking
are
about the
aware-
next project.
Yeah, no, but we at the school, we are aware of the accelerated repair program, putting that into our repertoire when there's a project that qualifies and we think we could be approved for funding.
Great.
It's a very limited scope of projects that you can apply to that program.
This is a pretty unique roof too, because people walk up there and the planetarium used to be there. I mean, it's not like,
Planetarium's still there, but it's gonna be taken down.
yeah, I mean, they used to go from one half of the building to the other half.
Walk right up cap
Be in the roof.
there and be on the rooftop.
Yeah, so it's not like a flat roof that no one goes on. It's a weird configuration at high school.
Of asphalt with the seams giving.
Yeah.
Especially in an environment like this with the storms and ice and the freezing and the melting. that is what, the wear and tear, and so they're all breaking apart, and that's how the water gets in and comes in.
Yeah, yeah. But that's partly why solar panels wouldn't be a good
And
fit.
that, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So can I move that the chair sign this intermunicipal agreement?
I think we're all signing.
What?
I think we're all signing.
We all do.
Everyone's name is here anyways.
I saw a note in one of the exchanges about whether we sign it before or after our meeting. Is that an issue?
It looks, there's some caveats in here. It's, dependent on approval at
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay.
ballot.
Okay, so no.
It's not valid unless it passes all of
Okay,
them.
okay, so it's all fine. Okay, good. That's right. I saw that now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yes.
We did it late last year because we were waiting.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, the motion was to execute the agreement.
And I second your motion.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Diane, I'll connect with you and pick those back up, so I have to
Okay.
switch over on Tuesday.
Yep, I'll be at tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. For the rest of your evening.
I don't know if they still do that, but the kids used to go to the roof to go to the other side of the building. They would go outside, all the high school kids, and then go across the roof and down a different.
I need your water to get. Oh. Easier. Oh, okay.
All right, so now we are going back to item 4, review and discussion of the town meeting warrant articles.
So we should do that article by article, or you want to skip ahead to whoever's waiting?
You do, Heidi Doyle, town planner, is online if you want an overview of the stormwater, changes to bylaw or the zoning bylaw changes, but, otherwise, feel free to go about discussion as you like.
Yeah, see, that's sort of the end of the warrant, and so we have her waiting for an hour or so when we get there. Maybe better courtesy to her.
But Heidi loves attending our meeting. She would be here even if there wasn't anything for it. All right, yeah, so why don't we, let's skip to the end and then we'll come back to the beginning. So why don't we start with 15 and 16? Maybe you want to just wait a couple minutes for Dan to come back from presumably the bathroom. Is that okay?
Is there anything else we can do?
Yeah.
But
15 and 16.
I'm happy to move the consent agenda, for example, if you want to do that.
Okay.
So if you call that as an agenda item, I'll
All right.
to a consent agenda.
Let's skip over to the consent agenda.
I second your motion.
All right, moved and seconded. We are just deciding to vote on the consent agenda while we were waiting for you. So
Thanks.
all in favor? All right. Now that we consented. All right, Heidi, take it away. Article 15.
Thank you. So I don't have it in front of your order. Is that the
Stormwater.
miscellaneous?
Stormwater.
Stormwater first? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have one picture that probably sums up our whole reason for doing this. I don't know, Jeremy, if you're willing to share that for a few seconds.
A few minutes ago.
So I think most people know stormwater is federally regulated as well as state, and we have something called the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems, typically known as MS4. And there are mandatory requirements for this, and it's actually only a small part of town that has this section, but it will probably be expanded coming up to the whole town. But this one picture sums up why we also want to add land disturbance to stormwater and why we want to make it town-wide. This is on Lake Street. And it happened during a construction of a house that was out of the wetlands area. Yeah, that one right there, you can see, it was a new construction. It did not meet our 1 acre requirement to have any stormwater management plan done. Because at the time, our current bylaw also exempts driveways from in the calculation of the acreage, which that's one of the big impervious areas. So we felt it was time to update the bylaw. Many of the towns already do this, and we were just trying to figure out what would make sense for Sherborn and how to manage this. Stormwater, as you know, it protects our water quality if we're trying to manage this from different trash, chemical, oils, sediments. It's also protecting our roadways and infrastructure. In this case, you can see on the left-hand side, the little orange area, that is a culvert that's been completely blocked by all the runoff and debris that's run into it. And this actually runs into Farm Pond. This is on Lake Street and it goes right into Farm Pond. So the benefits will also include, besides the erosion control and flood control. You can take this down, Jeremy. We can continue just talking. I won't go through it more. But we're adding land disturbance because that's an appropriate and common trigger for managing stormwater. And land disturbance from any type loosens up the soil, and that's what's washed away is in the picture that you saw before. So what we're proposing is to add an intermediate category. Right now, we have essentially no permit, or if it was an acre or more, then you had a stormwater management permit, then that triggered some factors there. What we want to do is have a minor permit that is for half an acre to an acre of disturbance. And what that would capture would be things like new constructions of homes that didn't meet the acre, but could really benefit some erosion control or other management, especially during constructions. And then if we're adding impervious surfaces, because that's one of the major contributions to the erosion that you've seen here. It's not going to be very burdensome for people in the sense that most of the things would be putting up swales during the construction. Might be some rain gardens if it's a big area that's being disturbed. There are other water detention systems on bigger systems that can be done. And I'm not going to go through our whole PowerPoint and what's there, but online under the planning board website and in the town clerk's office, we have the whole article that we went section by section where we've highlighted in red what's changing. And then on the right side of this is a column that gives the explanations for each change and why we're doing it. We have a PowerPoint that we're going to be presenting at the combined advisory hearing on Saturday that's going to go through the highlights of this area as well. I'm happy to meet and talk with people to go into more detail on it, but I just don't really feel like going through a whole line by line would be very productive for this meeting. We also have pictures and examples showing what things would get a minor permit or no permit and what type of projects would get a major permit. We think this is the right step for the town to take. It's actually what we've chosen is kind of a middle ground. A lot of towns have actually much stricter criteria, but Sherborn does have larger lots than a lot of the surrounding towns. So we felt by going with up to half an acre and then from half an acre to an acre and more were good thresholds. I'm just going to stop there. Any questions on what we're doing?
Has the planning board had its public hearing on this?
Yes, we've actually had 3 sessions going through this. Had some comments from different people. We've gone through talking with Sean Colleen and DPW. We actually had sent this back to the AECom consultants to make sure we're still in compliance with MS4.
And did the planning board take a vote
Yes,
On
5-0.
in
5-0
support?
in support.
Yeah.
Heidi, what would the process be for applying for a permit? Just coming to the planning board and
Well, right now, when you apply for a building permit, the part of the building permit application, you have to, they look and check to see, are you within conservation or not? So it's sent to conservation for an administrative review to see if you're within the wetlands protection areas. And conservation looks to see if you're doing any type of land disturbance. So the procedure that we envision would be another checkbox at that point to say, yes, you're doing land disturbance. and what amount is the land disturbance, less than half an acre or more than half an acre and then over an acre. So at that point, we'd be capturing whether there's anything to be looked at further. Same thing when you do Board of Health permits, there's some things there too, that also gets looked at for, sorry, a administrative review procedure. And then the building department inspector would triage and send that over to whatever is the next level, whether it goes to planning board or not.
And so would the approval come from or the issuance of the permit come from the planning board or from Concom or?
So the planning board will be your permit granting authority. But we're trying to make sure that we streamline it to do one permit process for people so that you're not going to planning and to
Yeah,
conservation.
yeah.
Because it's redundant and it's
Yep.
difficult for the residents. So the permit granting authority can designate it to conservation or a
Okay.
combination thereof.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Heidi, I have a couple of quick questions. One is, has this bylaw, I assume you vetted with the whole land use group down there, and yes, I'm sure you have. So yes, the answer to that is yes, I'm sure.
Okay.
But my second question is there any retroactive mechanism here? That is, if there is excessive flooding at a particular property that is not because of current construction, but construction in the past that wouldn't have been covered by the MS4 permit, but now is. But now it's just a matter of impervious surface or other sort of.
So what you could connect right now would be on discharges into the street. So if there's any illicit discharges, extra runoffs, something that's affecting coming into the public ways, that would fall, that's going to be designated under Sean Colleen, who pretty much has it right now, but we're going to continue that authority. And DPW will manage any of the illicit discharges. But we can't really go back and say, now you have to go put in a rain garden for someone who's already has all their permits signed off.
Right, that makes sense. But so this legislation, this bylaw really is relevant only to new construction. Is that right? Yeah.
To create a stormwater management plan, yes, that would be new construction. Or we're also saying 50% reconstruction will qualify under new construction.
So 50% reconstruction, if someone is putting on an addition,
Right.
if it's below 50%, it does not qualify.
No.
Okay.
No. So we're not capturing every single home because at half an acre is still a decent amount. So if you're putting in a tennis court, a pool, most of those will not trigger and will be a no permit.
Right.
But it's an effort to making a step towards getting some controls in.
Yep.
So I assume that agricultural is exempt from disturbance. So if I'm plowing 5 acres, 6 acres of land, this isn't going to cause.
Normal routine maintenance and normal operations of farms are exempt.
Great.
If
Thanks.
you're putting up a whole new barn and a whole new compound, there will be some review process.
I have a couple questions. One of them, I think you probably already covered in your previous answers, but I just want to ask. So the changes that you're making, are they all are still within the sort of realm of what other municipalities do? Or
Yes.
is there anything in here that's like, oh, this is a novel approach to stormwater management that we have come up with here in Sherborn?
No, this is not a unique to Sherborn program. Actually, more towns are looking at this, and I've had people saying, "What are you looking at? What are you doing?" We actually looked at our surrounding towns, Natick and Framingham and Holliston. Most do have some type of land disturbance aspect to it. It's a question of is it under Concom? Is it under Planning Board? That seems to be the biggest difference in towns of who actually is the permit granting authorities. Medway, most of the surrounding towns have it, or they are looking to do it. Some had a threshold of 5,000 square feet, where we're going to go to 20,000 square feet. Because the pushback, we had some residents and feedback was they felt we have bigger lot sizes, which seemed to make sense.
And then my other question is, basically, what is either controversial or problematic or anything about this? Like when somebody is going to stand up at the advisory hearing or at town meeting and say, I disagree with this because blah, 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 blah.
Right.
What
So
is the reason?
So, some of during the public hearings, some of the feedback we had from people or that is from some of the farming groups. They wanted us to take out the words normal, routine and maintenance, which is what's already in our existing bylaw. And we actually weren't even planning on touching that. But they wanted us to remove it and have it just be maintenance and improvement. The concern I have is then any type of activity, including putting up new big buildings, would not trigger any type of management plan. And that is not what the protected use necessarily says. So the planning board did feel strongly that there should still be some type of a review process if it's not under the protected use. Other ones we've had in general was this is possibly overregulation, and they just feel the town tends to overregulate properties. And this is one more thing homeowners have to try and do. Could this be costly? The ones in a major permit that you're doing, if that's going to look into rain gardens or some of capturing the water retention basins, and it's a calculation of 1-inch rainfall over so much impervious surfaces. Most of those are they're already having all the engineering plans done, that it's not much more to have the engineer calculate what the rainfall amount would be. So not that many of the plans that we've had actually would even fall into doing a major permit. You're looking at something like a Coolidge Crossing, that would definitely fall into it. And then we had one permit in the last year that we did work with them on stormwater because it had some conservation areas. And that was a pretty huge plan of a whole new big barn, a new house, a long driveway. It was quite a lot of surfaces to meet that acre, and they were just over an acre disturbance. Most tend to fall under the 1 acre that we see. So another question we had was, why would we want to expand the stormwater to the full town? Why don't we just keep it to the MS4 district? Even if MS4 is going to expand, why would we want to do something before we're required to do it? That's a good question. However, just because the state only limits us right now to a single area, we do have this impact throughout the whole town. And, being more in line with other towns, they are trying to capture the erosion control problems.
John?
Did you call on me?
Yeah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Couple comments actually to your question, and to Heidi's comment. A lot of people are probably going to ask, why are you trying to regulate a section that's not regulated? I think the point of Heidi having that picture at the beginning of the presentation exemplifies why we should. There's a pocket of construction in town, which is actually most of the homes in town that would get built or rebuilt or driveways built. I don't have any authority until there's an issue on the street. Concom may or may not have authority depending on where it is in town or, proximity to wetlands. So and the building inspector doesn't have authority. So someone can build a house, it silts down, and it's not an issue till it's an issue. And then we can't go back and fix the design. All we can do is enforce, clean up the mess you made. So there's much better work that can be done by having this. There's also the issue. It's not so much an MS4 in a certain section of town, but you know, we're responsible for a certain amount of mitigation for phosphorus that the town is creating and contributing to the Charles River watershed. That is probably going to cost us millions of dollars in the next few years. So every new project that is created is going to create more phosphorus. So the town has to come to grips with how much mitigation should a new project be required to handle. And that's handled within this bylaw, whether it's over an acre or under an acre. They are required to handle a certain amount of TSS and phosphorus reduction through mitigation efforts, because they're going to create an increase in phosphorus. So we're requiring them to mitigate some of that. Otherwise, that requirement is going to run away from us, and every 10 years the requirement's going to increase, and it'll run away from us. So we'll see in the next few years how much that's costing us, but this is to address part of that, and this is to address comments that came back from EPA, because the MS4 permit is through EPA, not DEP. So some of this we're required to do, and some of this is good housekeeping to make sure we're protecting the wetlands, protecting the streets, protecting the groundwater. So this isn't an overregulation thing. I understand. I've built houses in towns. I've worked in towns, so I understand the concern for the difficulty in permitting and construction. But this is not that.
And would any of this be considered a local regulation that could be superseded by a comprehensive permit on a 40B project?
Well, can't imagine a 40B project that would fall into that little, half to 1 acre parcel. That's a really small 40B project. So there's some of it, but most of which it would basically land under where we mirrored what's already in the federal permit.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. We're not more stringent on that.
Yeah. Right, because if it's over an acre of disturbance, then it's federal and state law, not unloaded.
Yeah, correct. They're going to be doing a NIP use stormwater permit and et cetera. And this just follows those regulations. We're trying to fill the gap kind of below that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But I believe we have had 40B projects proposed that were 4 units.
I think there's still more than an acre.
Yeah, and actually, the applicant was very good with working. We did have that, a lot of that was in Concom's jurisdiction, and they did create some good plans and worked with Concom to come up with mitigation.
We've actually had a couple single family homes that were more than an acre. And the engineer and the homeowners / builders were happy to work with us, but prior to having good regulations for it. So this will help with that, because it's not totally unheard of that someone would do more than an acre just for a single family home in Sherborn.
Great. Any other questions about this one? All right, if not, we want to go on to your next one.
Can I make a motion
Sure.
that the select board support this at the advisory committee hearing coming up on the 21st?
Moved.
Do we vote then or we vote now?
I think we should go now.
Okay.
Sure, a second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Um,
Aye. All right, next one, amend sections of the zoning bylaws.
Right. Oh, and just a reminder that the stormwater one is a general bylaw, so that is a majority vote, not a 2/3 vote. The warrant article for miscellaneous zoning bylaws, which will be the 2/3 vote, is actually very few changes. There's a couple of administrative updates that we realized we corrected a schedule of use, but didn't do it in the table of use. So that's what is outlined there. One was daycare centers, which we had the word permissive, but it's to be allowed. And just an FYI, the word permissive is what's been used in the zoning bylaws, and it is given a definition for many, many years. So it implies that it says right there that permissive means you get a permit in it. If we want to change the word permissive, we'll have to do a whole lot of work on it. So we're sticking with the word permissive and changing it to allowed for daycare centers. Multi-dwellings, too, we had to go change that to permissive based on adopting the MBTA 3A. There were a couple of sections in there, EA and the open space subdivision. We want to make sure that they were all denoted that it is permissive to have multi-dwellings in those sections. One of the biggest changes is we are removing section 27, which was for low and moderate apartments, it was called that time, which is now accessory dwelling units. And the reason for deleting this section is when the planning board was deciding with the protected use and the special permit ADUs that they agreed to do 2 ADUs per household because the protected use ones were allowed by right. And we didn't want to have people to choose what order they were going to build it in. But it was pointed out last year that we now have a third category for an ADU, which was this low and moderate income one, which could have put a third ADU on a property, which was not the intent of what the planning board was doing. When we were looking through and reading it, we also realized there were some inconsistencies in that section, as the low and moderate income one was a ZBA special permit that could be renewed every up to 5 years. But the criteria to meet a low and moderate income was that it had to be able to be counted on the subsidized housing inventory list, which followed the local initiative LIP criteria. When we looked at the LIP criteria, it was only for attached apartments or ADUs, not detached. And you could also have to have a long-term deed recording with this, such as 30 years. They were not going to accept something that was a 5-year permit. So the bylaw was kind of conflicting with what we say you could do and what the state would allow and how you get it to count. So we had a discussion about it, and we also realized that you could make this protected by right ones or the special permits that we allow now could become a low or moderate income one if the owner so chooses. They can follow those same rules. We don't need to have a special section in the bylaw. And we didn't want to have a third category when we realized that this could already be met within the existing 2 categories. So we are recommending deleting that section, and then had to delete those one further reference in the bylaws that referred to that we're deleting as well.
Question,
That's it.
shouldn't that be expressly permitted as opposed to expressly allowed? Because if you're gonna have the Board of Appeals individually allow this, then it's not allowed. It's really a special permit. So shouldn't
Which
that be
section?
paragraph 240-3.3, living accommodations in non-residential buildings, third line down, non-residential purposes except as expressly allowed or authorized by the Board of Appeals. So shouldn't that say expressly permitted or authorized? Because if it's allowed, then it shouldn't be the Board of Appeals making an individual determination. Allowed should mean as of right.
Okay, why did we still leave that in the business? I guess because expressly allowed would probably be the by right one. That you either could do a by right ADU within the non-residential building, or you could do the special permit one.
Oh, so these are basically 2 different alternatives. I read them as
Correct.
one.
No, we have 2 different alternatives.
So maybe you should have a comma after the word allowed. So I read that as allowed or
Okay.
authorized by the Board of
Okay.
Appeals.
Okay, yes, so we could add a comma in there. That would just be an administrative change that I think would be allowed to be put in.
Okay.
Any other questions? I guess same question as I had last time. What's controversial here? Why would somebody object to this?
I don't think we have anyone objecting to this. You know, we had
Great.
someone that was trying to do the low moderate, and that's where all this came out, and they decided they were not going to go that route because it
Okay.
became too onerous.
Okay. So neither Robert Johnson nor Richard Robinson's going to have an amendment on the floor on this.
I can't promise that.
Okay.
The planning board had its hearing on this,
Yes,
and they
yes.
also voted.
Or 5-0 to put this forward.
All I know is that people always have very creative ways to alter the planning board articles at town meeting. So-
Yes, they do. And we sent out our notice. We tried as it's just, that's all we can do is try.
All right. Should we take a vote on this one?
Sure, so moved to approve.
A second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right, so now let's
I
go.
only have 16 articles, so they're highly likely to have time to challenge things.
Well, we can,
Also.
yeah. All right, so do we wanna consent the first 8 articles?
So I have a change on Article 8.
Okay.
So what Article 8 is, it presents a whole choice of different things. Raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds to be used for, and then it has a whole series of options, each of which are legally different. Care, improvement, and embellishment, or the enlargement of the cemeteries throughout the town, blah, 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 blah. And what everybody's agreed to is that the funds that are going to be appropriated should go to the perpetual care funds. So the motion to be made would, if we identify a funding source, which presumably is available funds from money that the town has received from the cemetery commission. And I don't recall the number offhand. But the motion to be made should be for X dollars from available funds for perpetual care of the cemeteries throughout the town.
Your point is that all those other things are subsumed under the term perpetual care.
No, that there are different alternatives, so with different legal consequences as to which fund it goes into.
Wait, so care and perpetual care are different? Because care is already in there.
It probably, what I'm trying to say is, you should not be appropriating to 5 different funds. Care, improvement, embellishment, or enlargement. Those are different funds and they have different rules, different accounting rules. And so we wanted to go into perpetual care. The cemetery commission voted that it should go into the perpetual care. And I believe advisory committee wants that also.
Okay,
So
but there's nothing wrong with the wording of the article.
Is that all in the motion, Paul?
that's all to be done in the motion. So the article is the article. The question then is, do we support the article? And I'm saying, given all of the discussions with the members of the advisory, with the members of the cemetery commission that I've had on this, the motion that they need, and the one that I think they should support, is to put this money into perpetual care,
What was there unanimity on the cemetery commission?
2-1.
Okay. I guess I'd be interested in hearing what the,
The one was,
What was
I need
the
to mention
objection?
the name.
No, what was the
I know,
objection?
I know.
I mean, I
know.
guess my reaction is, the words here are what they've been for as long as you've been paying attention longer than I have, but for as long as I've been paying attention, these have been the words in the article.
Right, the article's fine.
And on the motion, I guess I would want to hear what the conversation was, because I know there've been some complicated issues around the cemetery commission and how they're doing things. And I guess I'd want to understand more of that before getting specific about exactly what allocation would make the most sense.
Yeah, but to me, my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but as the select board, I don't think that our purpose in supporting these types of articles is to specify exactly how much and exactly where it's going, any of the below the line stuff. Like, we're not going to be saying that, oh, I support Article 2, supplemental appropriations, but only for these specific dollar amounts for these specific appropriations, right? I'm not going to care tonight about prior year bills. Well, which bills? How much were they? Right? Even something like the revolving funds, where all the revolving fund limits are below the line and may actually change between now and town meeting. We're not getting into that tonight. We're just saying, I support the idea that we're going to set revolving fund limits just like we do every single year. And the specifics don't really matter tonight.
So it sounds like Paul's concern would have force at a later point at a later point.
It's a discussion that I want to bring up to the board so you know.
Yeah.
That the words that are in the articles that we've been using is actually a choice. It's like, do you want A, B, C, or D?
Yep.
And that's what the article says. So by supporting it, you're not specifying which one it goes into.
Right.
But in fact, there's a consensus between the finance department and the cemetery commission and myself kind of mediating it as to what's legally required. So that actually one of those need to be chosen as to where the funds go, because there are different financial implications.
So that sounds like something that sounds like a concern about the advisory motion.
Yes.
Yeah. So really, it's a
Advisory
discussion. It's a discussion for the hearing.
Right. And I'd be, again, I'm just getting back to that. I'd be very interested in hearing more about, what was the conversation around that.
So are you saying we shouldn't vote on this one and wait and vote on this one at the hearing?
No, I would say, because my opinion is that essentially we're just voting to support the spirit of each of these articles, and the specifics are to be determined by advisory at their hearing.
And it sounds like Paul's making case that at the hearing, some combination of us should say our view would be that, the motion that advisory ought to make is what you described.
Yes. I think the cemetery commission will be speaking in concurrence with what I say. And some people from the finance department, the finance director is going to say that this is how it should be done. And I think one or more members of advisory are going to say this is how it should be done. Because I think at this point, there's no dispute.
Okay. Yeah, because ultimately the article says, like you said, you have options A, B, C, or D. Ultimately, it's just that this year the motion will be, well, we choose option C,
Yes.
this amount.
Right.
And again, those are details that I'm not concerned about as a select board member.
It's the first year they've used a different a different option. So that's a difference. But
Right.
moving cemetery funds to a place of their choosing for cemetery use.
But for our purposes, the wording of the article is the wording of the article.
The article appears to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would propose that, again, that we effectively consent Articles 1 through 8.
And this is just consenting to the above line stuff, the words on the
Yes,
page.
yeah, we're not,
Yeah.
we're not committing to specific numbers or when options are given, which option. All right, so I'll entertain a motion for Articles 1 through 8, or support thereof.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved in second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so 9, omnibus budget. I guess part of the question right now would be, how deep do we want to get into budget discussion right now versus similar to Articles 1 through 8? I support the idea that we would support a budget for the town.
Well, I think we should be a little more specific. I mean,
But there's another agenda item to go over the budget and everything.
what, do we have a balanced budget?
We have a budget currently as it stands, that not all the budgets have been fully vetted, but yes, what has been put into the model is a quote balanced budget in that it doesn't trigger an override. It leaves you currently with about $5,000 in excess levy capacity.
So I can support that. No override and it's balanced. If he said we're out of whack by $3 million, go support this and be able to override with it, then I maybe not want to support it. Maybe want to hold that to the advisory hearing, listen to the whole process. But given what he's saying, I'm happy to move to support.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to talk about the budget and stuff later tonight. So I think
But
for the current agenda item, it's like we're gonna like you said, we're not triggering an override, so we support Article 9 as it currently stands. Right?
And
I guess.
Does that make sense?
Devil's in the details, I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be clear that if we approve this, it's not approving or endorsing this set.
We're not
numbers
endorsing
currently
a specific
in
budget
that
because
model.
it's gonna move between now and the advisory hearing. I mean, it could move from now until the town meeting.
But we are approving the concept of a balanced budget. We ought to have a balanced budget. And we're approving the concept that we're not authorizing an override at this time. So
Yeah.
All right.
I don't see that this is controversial. If you think we ought to be doing an override, then let's have that discussion.
No, I don't think that's the issue. I think why not wait and then vote at advisory hearing on this? What's our point about?
What's typically happened in recent years? What's been the typical pattern?
It hasn't always been typical. I think there has been some disagreement among select board members about when to vote on things. Jeff is a proponent of waiting until the advisory hearing. I think George Morrill was sometimes also a proponent of waiting till the last minute I think it's a lot of the advisory alumni who want to wait until the advisory hearing before making a decision. And I think I'm breaking the mold by saying, no, the select board's job is to support all of these things in principle. If for no reason other than not to prolong the advisory hearing,
Right.
because
Yeah.
when we have to have our own deliberation about each article at the hearing, it just makes the whole thing go longer.
So I'm
We have 16 articles, my friend. I think
So-
you're forgetting.
So I'm just thinking about the following. So at the public hearing, right, every department's budget line is going to be read,
Yeah.
and the advisory will vote on either the whole thing or they'll pull holes
Yep.
and vote on pieces of it.
Yep.
And you'll be asked, how did the select board vote on this? And if we approve this article, would you then say we supported that? Because there might be some elements of that, given that the budget's still going to be it's going to be changing in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we could say we support that because it might be we'd support most of it, but there might be one budget item where we would have a different view than advisory, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily want to say, oh, yes, we support the budget as proposed.
Yeah.
So that's a scenario that I was trying to think
I don't
through.
think any member is precluded. I mean, if advisory is proposing let's defund the police department and move all the money to recycling. And the issue comes with,
Right.
they asked our chair, did the Board of Selectmen vote? Are they supporting
Right.
defunding the police and putting all the money into recycling? I would expect you to say, no, we didn't vote on that.
I'm just thinking that through and how you'd answer
Yeah.
if we voted in the affirmative on this. How would you answer in Paul's scenario, and what would the basis of it be?
That's a good question.
Yeah, the basis would be all the numbers that we have before us today, so which we haven't gone through yet.
I mean, well, the problem is that I already know that the numbers that are before us today are not final.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Indeed. I think we all know. I
Yes.
think we all know that.
There's already, I mean, I already know various things that are moving, or that, it's certain things are a placeholder and we
Right.
need more information before we
Right.
know.
Right.
And I'm just trying to think now, it's like back when I was on advisory, when we got to the budget line, how did the select board handle that usually?
I mean, my recollection from last year is on each item on which advisory was going to vote.
Mhm.
So for the budget, that would be the non-held items.
Yeah.
And each of the held items, I turned to Eric Johnson and said, how did the select board vote
Mhm.
on this item?
Mhm.
It's item by item.
Or if there was a hold
Yeah.
and that wasn't something that we had voted on, well, then we'd have a conversation, we'd vote. I mean, I'm a huge fan of we should vote on as many of these things as we can ahead of time for all the reasons that you said.
Yeah.
I was just concerned about this particular one.
Yeah. When I'm like, now I'm reaching back to like the year when there was a departmental budget that advisory disagreed on and essentially presented at the hearing advisory's recommendation, which was not the budget maker's request and was also not the number that select board supported. And I'm trying to think, what happened? I'm like, I can remember the actual hearing. It was on Zoom. I was in front of my computer, and then there was a lot of scrambling, but I don't remember actually whether I ended up even asking the select board how they voted on
I understand
Of course.
how we can vote on article if it's just a general, statement of, shall we spend money? I mean, what does it mean?
Because
It doesn't mean anything until we've gone through the budget.
I think advisory and everyone at the public hearing will ultimately be interested in when a Department X comes up with a proposal of spend Y,
Mhm.
does the select board support that or not?
Right.
Yeah.
Specific items.
Yeah, particularly if it's one of our departments,
I'm sorry, say it again?
particularly if it's one on the
Yes.
select board
Yes,
departments.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And I think generally we've met with the police chief, we've met with the fire chief, we've met with DPW, and generally we are in support of their budgets.
My sense is
The budgets aren't nailed down.
there's still some that are in flux. Many of
Yeah.
those are not the so-called select board budgets, but there might be one that is, or two that
Or
are.
two at least, yeah.
I'm okay with holding off on the budget vote until we get to the hearing. And then we can have it, advisory will have non-held budgets, and then they'll have various held budgets. And then after the discussions about each one of those, we could basically individually deliberate and vote on them.
I mean, if we voted on all the other articles, advisory shouldn't get too mad at us for slowing down their hearing.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable with that approach because
Yeah.
I don't feel like the vote wouldn't be that meaningful tonight if
That's right.
we could change it or was.
Okay. All right, let's do that.
Okay.
So we'll hold our vote on that one, but obviously we're going to discuss the budget later tonight.
Sean's got his hand up.
We'll get deep into it. Oh, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I completely agree with at least the capital. I mean, if I'm asking for a truck or the police chief's asking for a cruiser and the select board doesn't endorse that by voting on it doesn't send a good signal to advisory of the hearing. I think you guys should vote on at least all of the capital that came from the departments that follow under you.
Capital's the next
I'm
article.
happy to vote on capital.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't see any.
We're only talking about
I don't see any
operating.
problem.
The operating budget's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think you should actually vote on the operating budgets too, but I'll leave that one to you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all right.
You know, can I say one?
Mhm.
I mean, perhaps all of the budget stuff will settle down. And when we meet Saturday morning before the public hearing, could be it's all sorted out and we could take a quick vote then, perhaps.
Mhm.
It's a short amount of time, so that might be hard, but if everything had really settled down.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But I would say let's hold on the budget Article 9 vote tonight. Because a lot of things are moving right now. Article 10 though, capital improvement plan. I should vote on.
Actually, what's included in your packet under future agenda item, but I put on the screen might be helpful for this article.
Okay, great.
So this is an updated summary based on the capital budget committee and advisory committee meeting last night. It includes the regional schools item that you just heard about tonight with the new amount for Sherborn, funded by exempt borrowing. The Pine Hill water supply tank funded by exempt borrowing. One police vehicle funded by free cash. Various fire capital items, free cash. The DPW truck replacement, free cash. You've heard the two chiefs and Sean present those items. One of the changes that was discussed last night at capital budget and advisory was the town facilities and infrastructure. That is it. The town hall roof and exterior construction project is proposed to be $400,000 of exempt borrowing, and the designs of those 7 projects are now proposed to be funded through the capital stabilization fund instead of free cash. So that was a change from last night.
One question, how come it's 450 in
Yeah,
that
That's
left
an error
column?
on my part.
Okay,
Yeah, that's how I was gonna ask you.
The correct
Okay,
number.
okay,
On the right.
okay.
Sorry, I just noticed.
Yeah, okay.
I'll update that. Roadway management, this is another change, suggested this was to be all exempt borrowing. However, capital budget advisory wanted to split it, exempt borrowing and free cash. Essentially using free cash that had been used to fund the recycling center as free cash for the roadway management, and then making the recycling center work exempt borrowing. So it didn't change the overall number, it just didn't change the method of funding for roadway management.
okay.
And then the IT work, as you saw, the Laurel, not Laurel, for the Jameson Field, one of the ball field projects.
That's the recreation one?
Yeah, there
Was,
was.
it's not, because I thought Laurel was the ARPA funding.
Yeah. No, there's another project that's not on this list that the Recreation Commission has rescinded. They're going to defer it.
Yeah.
It's not on here.
Yeah.
It was for $100,000 for further work at Jameson Field.
Yeah,
So they've pulled that article. It's not going to be considered a town meeting.
I thought Laurel was part of ARPA.
There is a small request, and I have the funding as free cash, question mark.
They
In
have
the
fund- funds.
advisory and capital budget
Didn't have what?
did not
Didn't have
yet
funds.
set that as the capital
No,
project.
yeah, that's what I
Or
would have.
determine how best to fund it.
Okay,
But it is currently a request of $12,000 to fund an additional sprinkler arm for the Laurel Fields
Okay.
irrigation project.
all right.
How that is funded is still to be determined.
Why is that a need?
They need 2 travelers apparently that do the sprinkling. They could afford one of them under the funds they have available. They need to purchase another one outside of funds they have available. So there was some discussion on whether that should come from the recreation revolving account rather than free cash. But it
So the
seems to be tied into the operating budget proposed by the recreation committee into that overall discussion.
but the first sprinkler is being paid for with ARPA funds?
Yes. They need a second.
Okay. But what's the current status of their ARPA funds available, and likelihood
Fully
of,
committed those funds, have not expended, but it's fully committed, it's a contract in place.
okay,
The work is, to be started in the next few weeks.
Okay.
The final work, so
okay.
it'll be,
So we can be confident it will all be expended by the end of the calendar year, right? Which is, that's the deadline, right?
it's the, yes. And as well as the port project is, getting on a breaking ground shortly,
Okay.
and ports are supposed to be done by June.
Um,
And then the Camel project that you are aware of, so.
Yeah.
All told, the capital request, if you include the 12,000, is $2,756,000 for the one. Funded by the various sources there on the bottom. So all of those, with the exception of the Laurel irrigation sprinklers, were approved by capital budget.
okay. And did capital budget and or advisory have alternate options for funding of the irrigation, if not free cash?
The recreation revolving.
The revolving, okay. Okay. And, okay. All right, so I guess,
So all of these do overlap into three of the articles in the warrant, the capital improvement plan, the non-recurring, and the regional capital. So.
all right,
Yep.
they're all in here.
Yep.
Apply it to those three.
But there's nothing in those articles that isn't on screen right now. Okay,
So can I move approval?
Yeah, I
I would just want to see if there's any
Yeah, I do
discussion.
have a couple
Yeah.
questions. I'm happy to do that after a motion. So, just interested in the rationale for the design, the 125,000 design coming from capital stabilization fund. I'm in particular thinking we're putting 350,000 into the capital stabilization fund from different sources, and then taking 125,000 out of the, and that's going into the capital stabilization fund from free cash, and then taking 125,000 out of the capital stabilization fund. And so I'm just,
Yeah.
that seems
Yeah.
complicated as compared to just here's what should come from free cash, and maybe the contribution to the capital stabilization fund's a little smaller.
Regular, functional capital stabilization fund, you would always have funds coming in and some funds coming out. That's your ideal. So this essentially is a start to suggest that, design of capital projects is appropriate to be funded out of capital stabilization. So it's setting sort of that precedent or setting that expectation that those funds could be used for those advanced design. And it also was a way to minimize direct impacts to the free cash.
And-
in that the funds, some of the funds that are going into, that are proposed to go into the capital stabilization account wouldn't go through free cash. They're going from
Overlay into,
overlay directly
yeah,
into capital stabilization.
yeah, okay.
So yes, it some of this seems like it's same, you do the same thing, accomplish the
Right.
same thing in different ways,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's a statement being made that
And-
that these designs fund them.
Does a withdrawal from the capital stabilization fund require a majority vote at town meeting or a 2/3 vote?
2/3.
So they're creating a high bar since free cash would be a majority vote, right?
But you already have exempt power in there, somewhere, don't you?
400,000.
But so these would be one vote or two votes?
There would be two votes, I
Two
think.
votes.
Okay,
Yeah.
both of which would need 2/3.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that all makes sense to me. My preference on the Laurelfield irrigation sprinklers would be that they pay for it out of the revolving fund. I mean, they have a significant balance there,
Yeah.
and it would seem like it's
Only 12,000.
it's very much, their project, and
Yeah.
that it would make sense to me for that to come
I
from
mean, I
the
guess
revolving
what's the
fund.
suggestion that depending on what they were proposing for the general fund operating budget for recreation, if that had considered they were willing to consider a number that was lower if this funding has a capital program for this unit made any difference.
So it's hard to judge these things from recreational, though I'm a big supporter of the rec department. it's very hard to get a handle on how they budget and
Yeah.
what money is coming in and where it is.
Invite Rec to come talk to. Yeah, because the rec budget / revolving fund situation is complicated, and that, in my opinion, is probably one of the bigger moving parts that is likely to change between town and the hearing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's why I have an opinion also about the sprinklers, but I don't know, to some degree, I'm like gonna defer to advisory to figure out how they want to basically frame the discussion about recreation and what's in operating, what's the revolving fund, what is the total amount of money that they are spending, and what is the justification for those various numbers. And this obviously would fit into that, but again, it kind of depends on how the discussion about the other parts of their budget goes to decide, well, $12,000 out of our free cash is almost nothing. And if that's the pill that needs to be swallowed in order to push down their operating budget, then I guess so. In my opinion, I'm like trying to save the taxpayers in the levy by making sure that everything that they're being levied is something that is well vetted and it has good logical backing behind the request. To me, that's probably pretty important.
So can I suggest that we hold on that line item and approve the rest?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The line you refer to is the Laurel Field?
Yeah.
Irrigation.
Right, just on that
Sure,
principle, I agree.
that's a nice way to do it.
Yeah, that's.
That's a nice way to do it.
I was gonna point out, I really like the design view there, because that's gonna be, I keep preaching this, that's gonna be next year's capital project.
And that's designed for those specific projects.
For those 7 projects, we're all identifying the on-site incident
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, no,
Some of
it's
which
very
we
nice.
suggested funded FY27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it helps you then have a better warrant article next year if you have a design that's
Absolutely.
a bit close to a biddable price.
I would happily second the motion you were about to.
So move that we approve the capital projects, but hold on the irrigation sprinklers project.
Okay.
A second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
No, that gets Sean what he was asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get off our back, Sean.
Magic. Believe in magic.
All right, 11. Oh no, we already did. So that was effectively 10, 11, and 12, right? Use of free cash is there's nothing right now, right? Correct. All right, so I suppose do we vote to support no action on that? Or do we just skip that one?
No,
Yeah,
currently no action.
there's no action on it, so might as well just skip that one, right? What should we vote on that? Yeah, no, because I'm not going to vote to support no action. All right, 14 Land Acquisition Committee. Nothing about this has changed since the last time we talked about it, right?
Right.
So
This was put together by Marion. She did an excellent job, and I'd move to support it.
And I'm going to recuse on this.
Yeah.
okay. All right, there's a motion.
A second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? All right, I'm abstaining on it.
Yeah, same.
We'll see. We'll hear it again in advisory.
Yeah.
I'll try to make it.
Are you abstaining because you don't have a settled view or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
Or maybe I do have a settled view, but I don't want to upset
Got
the
it.
person
No.
sitting next to me with it.
got it.
I'm very sensitive. He knows what will happen.
So we're done.
Well, no, we didn't do the ballot questions yet, but I think we're.
Well, we're done with this agenda item.
Mhm.
Uh, and you, Diane, you'll provide me the updated checklist at the hearing, right? So then I can, when they ask me, I can be like, oh yeah. we voted.
Yes.
Okay, ballot questions.
That, was amended, we sent you an amended one yesterday as a result of, changing, the recycling center to be funded by exempt debt. So.
Okay.
That's valid for that, otherwise it's what you originally got in there.
Okay.
5 ballot questions for all for exempt.
You took
I
out.
think the version that was in, I think the version that was in the packet also had Jameson Field still in there.
No, we
But
put that
but
out.
that's out. Oh, that's out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Replace it with
That's the other
recycling.
change.
Okay.
Jameson Field is out, recycling center's in, staying otherwise.
And
Okay.
bond council has approved it.
Okay. Okay, great.
So motion to approve the ballot questions.
Uh,
Okay.
second,
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Yeah. Okay, all right, now we're gonna get into operating and party this capital. Okay, so I made advisory very angry with my comments from the last meeting.
Where did you fit in the last meeting?
I told all the departments to push back when advisory asked them to cut services and staffing.
Well, we're in agreement that there shouldn't be any reduction in services to the community.
Yeah, so so what has happened in the last 2 weeks? Because
Yeah.
when we were looking at it last time, we had something like $150,000 or so of excess capacity. And I believe that was before version 3 of the schools, which came down. So
So
where did we lose
so
100,000+?
What you saw last had about 90,000 in excess levy capacity, like a little less than 100. Since then, and I'm gonna present it in this format, in that it lays it out with, your levy limit up top, gives a projection of the property tax rate, other revenues, and then expenses. It's sort of a balance sheet format. But as previously noted, this can be done within your levy. Does leave a small excess levy capacity of just over $5,000. What has changed since the last version that you saw was under revenues. We were asked to take a little further look at local receipts, and we've refined the local receipts number. It's slightly lower than it was the last version, in that given some unknowns and uncertainties that have popped up in the world, taking a little bit more of a cautious approach. The DLS recommends that local receipts be budgeted based on 90% of your expected previous year. Currently, this budget is proposing 95%, so it's still a little higher than what DLS would recommend, but it's not quite as high as you saw in the last version.
How big a change is it? How big a change is
That
that?
was about $40,000. So that's about $40,000 in less revenue that would drop your excess budget. It's just a slightly more cautious approach.
Oh,
It's still not following the 90% rule suggestion from DLS. It's a little more aggressive, using 95%. But we're comfortable with that. I know that there are some departments that are working on increasing their fee structures and whatnot. So even though it's not following the black and white of the DLS, I believe that it makes sense to go with this. So that was part of the adjustment in I guess excess levy capacity. This still uses funds from the special education stabilization account to fund the budget, those one-time funds.
mhm.
Then down in expenses, I previously noted that for the assessing budget is currently carries the 35-hour week director of assessing. So we're still going to try to fill that in a part-time capacity. There's not been a whole rush of candidates knocking on our door, and so we still have the challenge of finding a partner of another community to share that with. So to be out of some caution and to be able to provide service for the Board of Assessors, we've put back in funding that position as previous. It doesn't include COLA for that role, but does include the previous hours.
So what was the amount of that change?
That was about $25,000. Then let's see. Conservation. I think we've come to a budget supported by the Conservation Commission co-chairs that now is as of this afternoon. So that budget number has been put in. Town buildings is a change. We've increased that slightly. One, to fully fund the expenses for the 2 EV chargers. That was an additional $8,000. And then there was another adjustment upwards of $13,000 for some specific town building expenses. That is still far less than the initially proposed budget for town buildings that was recommended in the study by Onsite Insight. So it does not still meet their suggestions from the study, but provides a consistent service level for that budget. Then police, fire, ambulance, the public works general budget, those have been reduced slightly from the initial budgets. We're still awaiting a revised budget from the Board of Health. We're advisory liaisons and advisories are always still awaiting a revised budget from the Board of Health. And then this also does include the current budget request for recreation of $100,000 from the general fund to fund recreation. So that is about a $40,000 delta there from what had been their previous, I guess, draft budget request of $67,000. So that was an increase.
That's because that's different than the packet. So that was a very recent change, right? Yeah. Okay.
And then let's see. No recent changes in the undistributed expenses from the last time we saw this. This now carries version 3 school budgets. There was a slight change in regional. There was no change in the local school. But we have version 3, their final budgets by the school committees. And then it carries all the various transfers to stabilization funds that you've discussed, changes there. And it's quote balanced. It doesn't require an override to fund. That's it in a summary. Yeah.
Well, this is looking better after reading all those articles using this about tones.
It's interesting. There's been a lot of emails going out. The survey for town managers. We've collecting data on all the communities that are going after overrides this year, and it's well above average.
Yeah.
You sent us that article too, that you got from MMA or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good article.
But I take great comfort in knowing that every year we have been generating good free cash. So it looks like the budgets that we establish aren't overused each year because there's some unspent money, and that free cash has been pretty substantial. It's like this year was quite comfortable. So even though the levy capacity is low, it does seem like we're taxing maybe more than we should, given the free cash number. And this whole process is of making adjustments to these budgets really just has the effect of bringing us closer to what we actually need.
Yeah, the current forecast from Deb, she's been having troubles with her internet tonight. She'd be with us otherwise, but for FY 26, the current budget year, our current forecast shows a slight surplus of $400,000, which is less than prior years, which means your budgets are getting tighter. But it's good. That's a positive number. The supplemental appropriation or special town meeting on the current year budget.
Yeah, and just for perspective, 400,000 is barely over 1% of the actual budget.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like a large amount of money, but relative to the budget, it's I mean that's
Seems that your
that's a
budget's
narrow
pretty good.
margin. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the problem with Prop 2.5 and the excess levy capacity and the cost of living and inflation, right? Is that I do think that, collectively, 3 of the 5 of us have been advisory members for, most of the past 15 years, probably.
At least that, yeah.
So I think that we've done a pretty decent job of trying to make sure that there isn't a lot of fat and waste and excess in the budgets. But even so, we are now bumping right up against the ceiling. When I look at all of the budgets that you sort of just kind of summarized, rec is definitely the one that I target the most as being what is this number really, and what is the accounting that is happening behind the request. And there's a lot of shift in the number that's being requested. When I go back and look at the historical data, it's like it's pretty opaque. I mean, it was what fiscal 23 and 24. It was like there was no breakdown. It was just we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on stuff, and it's just like, wait, what? What did you spend it on? And so, to me, that is a budget that I think that we don't have any particular oversight over it. So there's not a whole lot that we as the select board can do, but that would be one that I would encourage advisory to look very closely at. I don't believe that I would be generally in support of a operating budget number of $100,000 for the Recreation Commission, unless they can demonstrate to everybody's satisfaction that that is a real number that has actual evidence behind it, especially given. I mean, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the assessor number also, especially because there isn't a person there, so we're increasing the number for a phantom, but I understand the reasoning behind why you did so, but
Didn't carry the COLA, but just carrying the hours.
Yeah.
yeah,
That
but
was reasonable.
More for the backup plan.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's getting levied,
Sure.
so,
Right.
so it's like if push comes to shove and we're looking at cutting hours from an existing staff member versus cutting hours from a non-existing staff member, I think that we will probably cut that back down and try to figure out how to deal with the assessment situation. But I think we should leave that as it is for now. I think I would focus on recreation. And I know that the Board of Health budget situation is complicated, and that will be challenging to navigate probably. But again, I think that hopefully an open collaborative discussion between Board of Health and advisory can come to a number that everybody agrees with there. And then we also have the potential for a savings with an insurance plan change, right, which isn't guaranteed because multiple groups need to vote on it. But I think we're reasonably confident that there is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 in savings there, right? Uh, and then as a break glass in case of emergency, we're still funding 100,000 of OPEB through the operating budget and 100,000 from free cash. And so there's potentially another $100,000 that we could reclaim there. I would probably say that I wouldn't really want to go any lower than 50,000 on that, just so that we are maintaining a little bit of contribution this year out of the operating budget on that.
Talk about OPEB.
For OPEB,
Yeah,
yeah, because
exactly.
right now it's 100 from operating, 100
Yeah.
from free cash, so we go 50, 150, you know. Um,
In a recap level, though, two things I was going to point out. One is we had the on-site, inside report. We've been underfunding for years maintenance in a number of our buildings. And
Yeah.
so we put, because of the on-site, inside detail, and we're not fully funding it, but we're doing a better job of investing in maintenance costs to avoid future capital costs. And the same thing is what Sean, he's not still on here, probably did with the roadway management. We
Yeah.
had the road surveys done where they drove over 58 miles or however many miles of roads we have. And so that roadway management budget is so that we're not having to grind down and repave roads altogether. We can do chip sealing and other things if we spend some money now and don't wait till craters and we have to start from scratch. So
Yeah.
we have money in there that we didn't have in the past because we were not funding as well as I think we should have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the reason why I'm always a little bit uncomfortable with slashing the town buildings budget, and
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of faith that that's not just, a number pulled out of thin air to cut to make it look nice, is that,
Yeah.
hopefully, between Sean and Jeremy and, whoever is actually in the buildings, is making decisions about which things really can be deferred without ultimately shooting ourselves in the foot,
Exactly. Exactly.
Overall, having just watched this, I haven't been on advisory, but I think the budgeting process in this town is really, really tight and really, really pretty good. I mean, the reality is stuff costs money and it's getting a lot more expensive. And we have Proposition 2.5, which may go away. There's so much kind of building opposition to Proposition 2.5. I think stays are numbered, and then it's a whole different thing. What will come in its place?
Yeah.
But
They're talking about adding an inflation factor.
Yeah.
So in other words, right now it's very static.
Yeah, I read that.
Regressive because it's 2.5% of last year. But in fact, inflation might be 20%.
And it's still 2.5%.
It's still
not.
2.5%.
exactly, yeah, it's way too rigid.
Just a couple comments. On one, echo what Marion said. And Jeremy, I think you and advisory have done a nice job in pulling all of this together, and appreciate all the work that has gone into this from you and advisory. I was going to echo what Steve said about rec commission. So I also, understanding what our role is and the limits of our role, have very much the same concerns that Steve has about what's in the operating budget, what's coming from the revolving fund, what's the accounting, how are they doing that? What's the right balance between operating budget, revolving fund? The total amount that they're proposing in the last version that I saw that they're proposing to spend in the next fiscal year is, between both what they want to pull from the revolving fund and from the operating budget, is more than what they're spending this year. even though this year they spent something like 40,000 on from the operating budget on the Eversource electric work, that because of the need to do that, and it hadn't been anticipated in part of the ARPA part of the project. So presumably they're not going to be spending $40,000 a year on Eversource electric work next year. So I'm struggling to understand why the total amount they want to spend is going up this year rather than down. I share many of the same concerns that Steve highlighted about the rec budget. And then just to chime in my 2 cents on the big picture, as Paul said, as Steve said, right, Prop 2.5 not indexed for inflation. That's why so many towns are looking for overrides. And I'll go on the record and say, as complicated as the budget process has been this year, next year it's going to be, I think, even more complicated, because I think it will not be so easy to put together a current services budget that fits within the levy limit. And I think we'll put the override question front and center for us.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. I've been trying to, but once again, need to warn all of the department heads and budget makers that next year is going to be very different from this year. It's going to be rough next year,
Right.
And there may need to be service cuts and staffing cuts next year.
Yeah.
But my purpose this year is being like, we are close enough to being under the levy limit that we really should be able to find a whole bunch of little one-time tricks to keep us under the levy limit without blowing out people's departments.
And that's
But next year, next year's gonna be tough.
we agree.
Yeah, and I one thing that Jeremy has sort of suggested for next year's budgeting process, which I think is a good idea, which I think advisory ought to adopt, but it's going to require also a certain amount of buy-in from more than just us in advisory, is, early in the budget season, in like September or so, having a big meeting that includes the select board, the advisory committee, all of the department heads and or budget makers, the schools, to have a discussion about where the budget as a whole sits, to make a sort of projection as to what revenue is going to look like and how that fits within the anticipated maximum allowable levy for the coming fiscal year. And that gives you an amount of money that the town collectively has to work with, that then needs to get effectively divvied up among all the various budgets. And to have that discussion beforehand so that there is no surprise when come January 1, and everybody's budgets are way over the guidance about exactly why and exactly how much needs to get cut from the budget.
And just one point about state aid. We have state aid in the current budget, according to the packet I got, of increase of 22,000 or 1.81%. It's going to be higher than that. The problem with structural problem is that the state doesn't give us the numbers consistent with the schedule you just mentioned. They do their Ways and Means budget essentially in January or February, but it's not until you get the House budget and then you get the Senate budget, you're pushing June, July before you actually start seeing numbers that we can really count on. So we're being very conservative at 1.81%.
That's currently the governor's budget. It's the only budget available currently, the first version of the state budget. That's what our cherry sheet would look like.
But right now, all the indications are it's going to be well above it, more like 2.5.
Currently, it's a 2.5% increase.
You got 1.8.
Did you?
But yeah, the state revenue estimates are coming in a bit higher than 2.5% or 2.9% in revenue, and generally they've tried to tie like the unrestricted government aid to the increase in revenue number, which is about 2.9%. So our number for UGA could be about all in all said. if they follow that prior year.
Jeremy,
Right.
when is the health care process likely to wrap up and when will we know?
We've got the 30 days will start taking on Monday. We have the PC meeting scheduled for Monday afternoon, which is the official kickoff of the deliberation period.
I was at a MMA meeting and another community was telling me they went through the health process and they got killed by the schools. They got to the point where everything was working and the schools would not go along. And when the schools wouldn't go along to it, everything ground to a halt. And we were talking about trying to reform the health process, this whole thing we're going through. Because there's too many players, too many people with delays built into the process. That this guy who was complaining was saying they were 6 months into it. They still hadn't gotten to a final number. So they couldn't use it at all for their budget processes. It killed this year. And they're still arguing about it because again, the schools wouldn't go.
The way the law is written is it's a weighted vote of any union that has a collective bargaining agreement. It's a weighted vote based on the number of members of that unit. So the largest unions are the educators, so they have an out voice say in it. Non-union members don't actually have any representation at all.
So this would just
All folks in the hall essentially are represented through us.
it would just be Pine Hill, not the region, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But that's still
A lot.
still
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Police, fire.
Yeah, still the largest number of employees on board.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to count on anything. That's where I was trying to give you a warning based on what this guy was complaining about it. It's like that.
What the version you just saw, it does not yet.
Yeah. And that's why I bring up the other things like moving OPEB over and well, I guess we're already using specialized stabilization. What else was there that we can tweak? The assessor's budget.
Yeah, there's a couple budgets, I guess, that are still in flux. I wouldn't imagine those will be changing that drastically. And things couldn't be found to
Yeah.
get it out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if at least when we get to the near town meeting, if we have pretty comfortably somewhere in the range of $50,000 in excess levy capacity, that's probably about where I would be comfortable, 50 to 100,000. So we'll have to wait and see how the insurance thing plays out before we decide whether some things need to get tweaked right before town meeting to get the budget looking good. Although I suppose it's going to get published before then and go out to everybody. So, but I think everybody understands that this year is a little bit different than previous years. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts about the budget?
So I think we should hold on the budget too.
Yeah, I think we'll hold until the hearing. All right, so let's see, we already did the schools, we did consent, so select board reports.
Yeah, I have a report.
I have one as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, Marion went first.
Right. I want to just make sure everybody knows, including the hundreds of people listening at home, that
Thousands.
that our town administrator is a leader in the Massachusetts Municipal Association. And I think we need to recognize that. We're lucky to have him. He's just been asked to continue his chairmanship on the Policy Committee on Public Works, Transportation, and Public Utilities. And last week, you may not be aware that he was testifying at at the State House for Chapter 90 transportation funds. And I'd love to see that video, but I don't think it's available yet.
It would be for us.
Mike Klein could pay for you.
Yeah, I'm sure he can. Anyway, and he's going to participate in a MMA coaching collaborative that was a selective process that only benefits us because, it's more training that he's getting for free, I think.
I think it's like $50.
Okay. We can't afford that.
Yeah, we really can't afford that.
This falls in the line of what my former boss used to say, which I hate, is the reward for work done well is more work to do well.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. I've offered to clone him, but
So I just wanted to say, since I'm delighted to be back after being away for a time to take care of some medical things. And again, for the thousands of people at home, I just wanted to thank everybody in the room and everybody online and many others for the support and care that people showed. There was just a great outpouring of support. Really appreciated that. It was really helpful to me and to Sam. It was really heartwarming and is one of the reasons why I love living in this community, and I'm delighted to be able to be a part of this board to contribute. So just a big thank you to all the people for all the support during what was kind of a difficult time for me.
And we're delighted to have you back.
Thank you.
Deserved.
we missed you.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you back.
We did miss you. All right. Other select board reports? DA reports?
Yeah, I got a couple. Wanted to let you know that we're going to be undertaking a comprehensive building assessment of Pine Hill Elementary School. I've been working with the school department. Amelia's been taking the lead on this. It's a free program through Eversource, where they'll hire a consultant to identify energy conservation measures, areas that might for electrification. It'll help us with achieving our climate leaders designation as a community, which opens up a whole other pot of grant funding for projects. Will help identify projects for current green communities program that we're part of. And also is a requirement if we were to pursue any funding to the green schools grants, which will fund roof replacements as long as it will be solar installations. And so that really is our target is that we know there's a roof replacement need there. If we can get a significant grant through the green schools, and eventually get solar on the roof, that'd be a great thing. So just wanted to announce that, working collaboratively with the school department on that. Having a kickoff site visit in next week to begin that actual process. They'll be done by June. Great with the study. And then also heard today that the Boston Regional NPO next week will be voting to approve an additional $890,000 for the Village Center Transportation Study. That will supplement the current $900,000, so $1.7 million in study design.
Nice.
Fully complete the study.
Nice.
Final design for that project.
Wait a sec, could you say that again? It was 850 on top,
890.
890 on top of the nine, all for design and
All for
and
design,
engineering.
studying and engineering design. So
We really see how much the project costs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's just do the whole project rather than just a few
Design
pieces
the
of it,
whole
right?
project.
Rather than just a couple pieces of it.
And we're gonna get the construction on it. If the town comes to a consensus on what it wants.
Yeah.
Right.
for that project. You will have it. You'll have the funds to have it fully designed. Construction ready.
And the holdup now is at DOT, right?
UT contracts, yes.
Okay.
Changing emails, our consultant and Mass DOT and myself. Cross your fingers, couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
So it'd be really nice to have some very well-designed toll booths.
Well, why
Right
don't we
after
just
16.
why don't we just do the easy pass things? No, because toll booths is gonna make the traffic worse. We want the traffic to keep moving, but we'll just charge them.
You know, the state secretary of transportation proposed something like that and get into a little bit of trouble for it, just for the record.
Great, is that it? Thank you. All right, thank you.
So it looks like it's time for the motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Yeah.
All right.